And we are live. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am one of your co-hosts, Blake Ruffino. Alongside me is the man that everybody, I don't know, what do they say? I mean, they rip you alive sometimes, man. You don't deserve half the stuff that you have to go through.
Well, half the time it's you. So who are you coming at here?
Well, I guess I do.
I know it's all love. I know it's all love. People
No,
love to
it's
hate.
not. No, it's no love. But we do have a massive show in store for you here this morning, Joe. A lot of rumors flying. Transfer portal is, 247 came out and said Tyler Van Dyke is, he's playing the hokey pokey with his name in the current moment. He's putting his name in. He's putting his name out. He's putting his name in. And then the Diaz dude's got to shake all the money out, to get him to stay at Miami. Rumors of him going to Alabama. I don't, for me, and we talked about this in pre-production, but for me, this has nothing to do with Tyler Van Dyke is going to Alabama versus what does it say about Alabama and their quarterback situation. We'll talk about that here this morning. Joe, another thing that, and I'm sure we'll spend a lot of time on the Alabama and the transfer portal stuff and spring games that are going on today. But new rules announced for college football. You can't play on-time down in the first and third quarter. The clock's going to run. I mean, we've spent a numerous amount of time on this. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to dive too deep on this. And all I can say is the commentary on this reveals the casuals. It reveals those that aren't as invested and familiar with the college game as the real ones are, the real fans of the sport. Anyone who supports this crap, first of all, if you think it's good for the progression of the game, you're a casual. But I'm sure we'll kind of give our rounding thoughts because we're never going to think about it again because now it's changed and we're stuck with dealing with it.
We will. Let me tell you. Let me tell you something. We're going to talk about it in week one. You know why?
You think it's going to be that noticeable, though? I almost don't.
Yeah, because I think you got some good games in week one. LSU, Florida State. I mean, you do have good games in week one. So let me give an example from last year. When you have, let me give two examples of week one and week two, okay? When you have Alabama versus Texas and Bryce Young's got to go down the field in a minute and score, right? So those are going to be different things. LSU, Florida State, when Jane Daniels goes 99 yards and the problem wasn't one. My whole point is I think we're going to talk about it in weeks 1 and 2 because games are going to be close. That's why I think that this is a big deal. But look, my issue has been there. Tell me who made the rule change.
Right. We're never going to find out. We're never going to know who made the change. Yeah.
Right. Tell me who made the rule change. If a politician is making the rule change, we'll get into that. Also, other big names we mentioned. We'll talk about the transfer portal. Jimbo, we were going to talk about this the other night, but we didn't have the time. I was going to defend Jimbo. Today, I'm not. Because their fan base has gotten me to a point again where why would I defend Jimbo?
See, wait, this is what I don't understand is that, and I was thinking about this, seeing your interactions on Twitter, is you strangely support Texas A&M in terms of what their expectations are for next year. I've gotten a lot. You, for some reason, have given all this support, and then they're nothing but crappy. Those fans are just terrible. They're some of the worst fans in college football. I'll be completely blunt in saying that. Not all of them are bad, but the way that they were acting in terms of some of those comments that you were making is just don't defend them.
Well, here's what I defend. Okay. Two things can be true at once. They can have really good athletes. Okay. They can have a good, not great, not exceptional. They could have a good team, okay, because of what they've done in recruiting. Regardless of that, though, you can't go out there and trash talk other schools' quarterbacks when you had to go get a kid from the SEC from one of your rivals, and then he didn't play, and then you had a quarterback that threw like this. It's like that. Joe, by the way, do you know that the last national championship that they had was in 1993 in cheerleading?
Wait, stop. Yeah. Wait, are you actually serious in any
That's
sport?
what I found. That's what I found on the internet.
Look, I'm gonna say this is going to be an obnoxious statement, But a lot of times we talk about on this show, particularly if certain programs are good, it's good for college football. Like as much as we rag on Texas, and I think why we hold them to a higher standard is that when they're good, it's good for the long-term outlook of college football
I agree with
and
that.
for what we're focusing on. If Texas A&M is good or they're bad, it means nothing. They are such a non-impactful program. And look, they can get pissed at me all they want. It doesn't mean anything. They're not a program that holds a lot of weight in terms of their success. They are not a long-term SEC team. They're just a currently sitting team that has had a couple of good seasons.
Chris H brings up a good point, and I over-exaggerated. But he said, will the clock stop on first downs within 2 minutes? Yes, it will stop. But my point is, even if you're at 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and you got to make a drive, you know, look, they're just all that the NCAA is trying to do too is they're just everybody is trying to be like the NFL, and then so then we'll wrap up with A&M. But yeah, it's gonna be a good show. Everybody do us a favor though, so let's get this thing rolling. Everybody do us a favor. What do you want to start off with, Joe? You want to talk about the rule changes really quickly?
Yeah, let's kick off Alabama because I know we're gonna get heated over Alabama. So let's start with the rule stuff.
Okay. So we'll be back in 50 seconds, but before we go and take our first break, everybody do us a favor by hitting the like and share to all of those social media groups, share to all of those social media pages. You guys on Facebook have been killing it for us. Do us a favor by hitting the like and share button. If you're listening to us on YouTube, like, subscribe, notification bell. Joe, we did go over 5,000 on the AYS, so as soon as we hit 1,000 Ruffino and Joe show, we will be giving somebody $200 in that giveaway. If you're listening to us on XM Radio, TuneIn apps, wherever you listen to podcasts, rate, review, and subscribe as well. All right, Joe, we're back in 50 seconds. Let's talk about these rule changes next. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag. BetOnline.ag. What are we doing for the draft?
You were supposed to call me yesterday, so that's on you. That's on you. We're gonna have a discussion because we do need to make those plans.
All right. So the draft is what, in 1 week?
Less than a week. It's Thursday.
Okay, so less than a week. All right. So this is gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. All right. So Joe, and to all the listeners, let's get into this. Yesterday it was confirmed. So Ross Dellinger posted, it was leaked to Ross Dellinger. They told him to run it about potential college football changes when it comes to the rules. No on-time downs on in the first and third quarters. The running clock. I mean, basically that's it. I mean, that's the two significant things that are going on with these rule changes. I will continue to say, as long as I have breath in my very big lungs, what are we doing? Like, who are making these decisions? Like when decisions are made, right, wrong, or indifferent. Like yesterday is an example when Jameson Williams got popped for, and those people got popped for gambling in the NFL. Who comes out and puts their face of approval on the rulings? Roger Goodell. We don't have that in college football, right? Like we just don't have. I want to know who I need to yell at to tell them that they're Rudy Poos. I have no idea whatsoever or whoever are making these rule changes. What do we like? Okay, who is asking out there from a college football fan perspective? Who is out there asking for less college football? I'll wait. I don't think that there's anybody out there saying they want less football. Needless to say, they make these rule changes. Now, their thing is about player safety. No, it's not. If it's about player safety, you would have never played during COVID. So stop that. I just don't know anymore, Joe. I don't know where to. I feel like I'm Ricky Bobby. What do I do with my hands? Like I just don't know what we're doing anymore here.
Right. So we've kind of already talked about this. With the MLB making their rule changes, their timing changes, it was because of a lack of attention to the game. One of the funniest things, too, about those MLB rule changes, Blake, is that a lot of people, I wasn't saying your name to get your attention. I was just saying it. A lot of people have said that if you go to a baseball game, no one ever sits at a baseball game and thinks this is too long. It's the people watching on TV.
People are being receptive though to those rule changes. I agree with some of those rule changes. But
my point with that is those changes have been extremely positive for baseball because they had a retention problem and they were trying to hold the younger audience more captivated in watching games. The younger audience isn't worried about how long a college football game is. They love the length. They love the pace of the game. It's perfect for the younger audience. So I don't know why we are changing this. And again, my main thing that you keep bringing up is who is making the changes? Why is there not a public-facing view of somebody coming out making this statement and saying, we did this, I pushed this forward, we're doing this? Love what you said about Roger Goodell. We can get mad at Roger Goodell when he does these things because he is the front-facing, even if he's not the one who makes the decision, he is the one we know who sits in front and takes the flack for anything that changes.
Well, it's a lot like football or any sport, right? So let me give an example. Joe, when an offensive coordinator makes a bad call, it's always said, well, the head coach, everything falls on the head man. Everything falls on the leader. Everything falls on the president. Everything falls on whoever's in charge of making decisions. Here, we don't have any idea. Like, Joe, we have zero. We have somewhat of an idea but we don't know who's on these committees. We don't know who the college football executives are. For all we know, like we've seen in the past, people like Condoleezza Rice are making these decisions. And before you say I'm going crazy, well, you just hired a politician to be the NCAA president.
Yeah.
Joe, I don't mean this in a wrong way or cocky way. There's things about political procedure and laws and things like that I don't know that man will know. Okay. Can he fight on Capitol Hill for college football? Sounds great. I'm cool with that. That man does not know more about college football than I do. He doesn't know about, and so I think this is what I've ultimately thought, and I was waiting for these rules to go through. Mm-hmm. You know what I think that this is? They want more people in stands. Because
do we really have a problem with that though? Like I think for bad football teams, people don't go to games. Yeah, and for
they're not going to go to the games anyway. And Joe, I will tell you this though, for good football games, for what we see, like a Notre Dame, Ohio State, or a Michigan, Ohio State,
Alabama,
LSU, or USC, UCL. Well, maybe not out in the pack.
Oh, and those teams are good. We saw how packed the Rose Bowl got. That was a highly attended game.
All right. So when I go to the game, like as a parent, okay, as a father of two, I don't want to be in traffic for 3 hours going home. Have you ever seen a 7-year-old try to hold their pee for 3 hours? It's literally impossible. My point in all this is they make the rule changes. There's my only argument would be if we got to have countermeasures, meaning we have to have somebody that can push back. And until we have somebody that can say yes or no, because Joe, people make dumb decisions all the time. This is one of those dumb decisions. I just don't know what we're going to do here. Maybe, and then, this is the worst thing about all this. We turn to the federal government for all this, and you have people who have no idea what they're talking about. Like I listened to the NIL hearing. That was bad. They have no idea what they're doing, no idea about college athletics. Like you don't. Your main focus at Harvard, Mr. President, is not worrying about what's going on in athletics. You're more worried about other things in Massachusetts. We'll see, man. We'll see. But they made these rule changes. Good on them. I don't like it. I mean, well, you know, when I'm on a pedestal with Big Game Boomer arguing and agreeing with him, you've done a bad thing. Right? I mean,
yeah,
he's not wrong. Like people say it shortens the length of who's asking for that?
And it's incremental. The shortening of the game is so incremental that you take a couple minutes off. That's not a couple minutes off of a college football game does not save the life of a college football player that did not need saving. Invest more of your attention and time and resources and money in fixing the helmets. Make the helmets safer, which they're doing. Apparently, they're coming out with a special helmet just for quarterbacks, I heard, in relation to the whole Tua thing. It's supposed to protect the backside of guys' heads. Like, that's stuff that I can get behind. That's what all your resources and time needs to be focused on. How can we prevent more head injuries? We don't talk about, by the way, I've got a hockey highlight coming up in the corner of my eye here on my TV. We don't talk about concussions much in hockey, and that's more full speed with a different type of helmet. They have made that game safer, and they're not worried about the length of the game. I just, there's other things.
Well, the NHL has done some really bad things too. Like you can't go out there and have. I'm not going to get into that. But, okay. But I get what you're saying. But my whole thing is, why can't you make TV timeouts shorter? Why can't you say, like, for an example?
My only thing is, though, is I agree with that sentiment, but at the same time, like, that's where the money is.
So let me give you an example, because you're about to find this out, because CBS is going into the Big Ten. You watch a lot of Big Ten football. You watch Notre Dame. They're going to play those games. Did you know that CBS, the SEC a while back, had to come out and tell CBS, shorten the TV timeouts? Joe, there was an instance. This is not an exaggeration. I did this on a post-game show. And it was like, I think LSU was playing like Ole Miss or something, and Ole Miss was bad, and we're just writing all this down. Did you know that CBS had a 7-minute and 52-second TV timeout?
There was one that was 7
real
minutes.
time. Yeah, real time.
Was there any reasoning for that? Like, was there a
review? No reasoning. Okay. No reasoning. LSU had called a timeout. They kicked a field goal, and that's how long we had to wait for a kickoff. Like for them to kick it back off to Ole Miss. What are we doing? What are we doing? So schools could get paid. So basically, we're not going to shorten the TV timeouts. We're going to try to shorten the game. What are we doing?
It's the wrong thing to focus on.
It's the wrong thing to focus on. But like the Big Ten just did, they hired the guy that started CBS Sports. It's all about one thing and one thing only. How much money can you generate? Now, when we talk about all this, before we transition to Tyler Van Dyke in Alabama, my whole thing is that why are we complaining about NIL? Why do we have to regulate NIL? So we're trying to regulate NIL because everybody says it's the Wild West, right? That's been the main thing in college football. You don't say one word about CBS, ESPN, ABC, whoever, when it comes to TV timeouts. You don't blink. You don't blink. Why?
Because it's generating revenue.
Because it's generating revenue.
Yeah.
So executives, schools, CEOs can all make millions upon millions of dollars. But my God, On3, and you can clip this, On3 has got to have a projected NIL thing. What are we doing? You legitimately, like, they have a service that they put out there for how much someone's worth. You know what some people would call that back in the 1800s? Slavery. Okay, like, look, think about that for just a quick minute. What are we actually doing when we're putting a value on a human being, and then we're making a profit on us putting a value on a person?
Well, I think you're speaking on something that is is definitely
deeper. I get it.
Well, no, I was just going to say that I think you're acknowledging something that is very complex here with we're trying to maximize profit, and that's what the emphasis always is, and then these guys are not getting paid. And that's why everyone has said is they should at least get the NIL money. And I think eventually a lot of these commissioners are starting to realize you're going to have to pay a salary for these kids. You are absolutely going to have to pay some type of a salary. So I'm not totally against changes that are going to create more revenue. I'm always going to be in support of things.
I don't care, Joe. I don't care. Look, the TV timeouts don't bother me. You know what it gets me? You know what lets me look.
Check the other games, go to the bathroom, grab another beer.
The other games, take a piss.
Can't do that with basketball.
You do
it with baseball. You could get up for 20 minutes and not miss a damn
Not
thing.
anymore. You can't.
No.
Not anymore. You can't.
No.
But I'm with you. All right. So let's transition here. Joe, there's been a lot said this week when it comes to Miami quarterback Tyler Van Dyke. Is he going into the portal? Is he not going to the portal? I'll be honest. I don't know. What have you heard?
I heard at the very beginning of this that he was going to Alabama and that they were, or not going to Alabama, but Alabama was actively seeking him. And then what we started to see on Twitter, some people are saying that it's like a leverage play. It's an attempt by his agent to get as much money out of it as possible. I mean, look, go for it, dude. If that is what is the truth here, that is the alleged truth that his agent is trying to get him more money, do it, because he's not going to get any money in the NFL. He's not going to be a highly drafted kid, as some people have speculated, and his stock and projection and just quality as a quarterback has been overblown this whole time. Part of the reason why there was some hilarity behind him actually possibly going to Alabama, because they were in the market for Drake May at one point, and now they're in the market for Tyler Van Dyke. That's how desperate they are. This to me is what, and you brought this up earlier, and we talked a lot about this before we even hopped on. We almost did a whole show before the show, that this to me is proof of desperation. If there are these rumors coming out that they're seeking a guy like Tyler Van Dyke, that they think he, TVD, is going to solve their problems, what does it say about the current group of guys? And we're going to find out today during the spring game.
Yeah, so they do have their spring game. LSU has their spring game. A couple of SEC teams do have their spring game today. Colorado has their spring game today. I'm interested to watch them and keep my eyes out on them. I'm with you, okay? I think that this Tyler Van Dyke thing has more indication. So Monday, actually last Friday, but it was released on Monday. I came out and said, from an LSU perspective, a team that we cover, I have more angst when it comes to LSU playing Florida State than I do LSU playing Alabama. Why? Well, I would go on to say that Alabama has a quarterback issue right now. And everybody, kind of started, hitting me on Twitter. No, especially Bama fans. No, we don't. That's not true. Well, then these Tyler Van Dyke rumors came out. Okay. I'm not saying I started. What I think is happening is I think that the agent has talked to somebody at Alabama and asked their interest. There has been rumors and rumblings around Alabama about Saban not being completely okay with what's going on at the quarterback position. Before I say all of what I'm about to say, when you just came out and ripped the Band-Aid off when you talked about their desperation. Mm-hmm. For me, I'm going to preface this by saying, is Alabama going to win 11 games? Yep. I do believe Alabama's going to win 11 games. At minimum and worst, 10. They're going to win 10 games, including, their bowl game. My point in all of this, though, with Alabama, they're going to be good. I don't think that there's any question about that. Questions start arising for me if you're having quarterback issues and Tommy Rees is your OC. That is, to me, the ultimate thing that we should be talking about here. So you mean to tell me you haven't gotten not Van Dyke, Jalen Milroe ready? You hadn't gotten the Ty Simpson ready? Like, why are they so bad? Or why have they been so bad? The rumors. It's interesting because, like you said, they were in the quote unquote running for Drake May if he would have entered the portal. They were in allegedly, the same thing from Tyler Van Dyke. So I sit here and start asking myself serious questions. What's going on in Alabama? And Joe, what if both guys go out there today and lay an egg? You know, we don't know what's going to happen. Maybe they
talking
don't.
about it. Well, and then the other side of this is if one guy goes 12 for 14, then immediately it's, oh, they're
then we
win
don't
the
have a
Heisman.
quarterback issue.
Right. And look, you bring up, this is the key point here. I don't have faith in Tommy Rees. I got ripped alive for crapping on this move. And it's like, oh, you're just salty that the Notre Dame offensive coordinator is leaving. No, I said, go ahead, leave. I'm glad that he left. I thought that Notre Dame was going to get a good replacement. They did not. But we were all, as Notre Dame fans, hoping that Tommy Rees would not be back. I thought and had heard at one point that he might go to the NFL as like a quarterback's coach or something, and that would create an opening for a new offensive coordinator. Tommy Rees has never been good at developing quarterback talent. He has not. We saw what has happened with Tyler Buckner, who's been there long enough. We saw what has happened with Drew Pine, who's been there long enough and had limitations, but still was a pretty highly recruited kid who at one point was offered by Alabama. So it's not like that these kids are not talented enough that they couldn't have developed. Legit concern here. And the one thing is that if hypothetically Jalen Milroe and Ty Simpson need a little bit more work and they need a little bit more help, I do not trust Tommy Rees schematically to bail those guys out at all. I don't. Maybe help in the run game, but I don't.
They're going to have to out-athlete people. They're going to have to out-athlete people. They're going to have more talent than everybody to win. Now, I will tell you, what does that change what they've always done? They've been more athletic and better and more talented than everybody. That's how they win. Joe, there's nothing cute about running a 32 dive. There's nothing cute about running 38 zone, outside zone. Okay? It is what it is. They have done that. But I agree with you to some extent. I think here's what I think is happening. Okay. What I think is happening is that Alabama, for once, maybe under the Saban regime, is starting to have questions. Okay. In reference to, I mean, they're not dumb. Now they're going to defend Alabama until the brink of the brink of time, and good on them. I would too if I've won that many games in that many years and that many national titles. There's no reason not to defend them. But at some point, okay, Alabama fans have to be more realistic about what's actually going on in Tuscaloosa. Like, I got in arguments this week, and like people still ripping on Bill O'Brien. Bill O'Brien did not do as bad as they think that he did. And for what it's worth, if you think Tommy Rees is better than Bill O'Brien with less talent, I'm sorry to tell you, you're just flat out wrong with that. You know what Bill O'Brien didn't do? He didn't give up 5 touchdowns to your boy in Tennessee, Jalen Hyatt. He didn't give up the long touchdown run from Jaden Daniels in overtime. He didn't miss the call against Mason Taylor in the end zone. Okay, those are things that he did not do. That's not on him. At some point, they're going to have to look Saban in the face and say, listen, you are 2 other plays away from losing to Texas and Texas A&M. Joe, they are 2 plays away from being a 4-loss team with the reigning, defending, Heisman Trophy winning quarterback Bryce Young. That's not all on Bill O'Brien. They have had a disciplinary issue at Alabama when it comes to penalties the last couple of years. And I don't mind penalties. Like, look, you have 5-6 penalties a game. That means you're getting after it. I don't care about that part. But when you're having 10, 15, 20 penalties a game, then that's when you start having issues. They got to rip the Band-Aid off and say, Saban, you got to fix things defensively too, and offensively. I guess what they think. It's kind of chaotic to me when I look at it at its surface.
One of the other things with this too, and I agree with all that, the penalty stuff and Saban taking a little bit more accountability for fixing those things. And you already kind of brought this up. Is Alabama the type of team this upcoming season that can overcome a below average to average quarterback? I think that if we're being realistic, if things don't go that well at the quarterback position, if it's Simpson or Milroe, which there's different positives to either guy, if they are a middle of the pack to below half of the SEC in terms of quarterback play, are they the type of team that can overcome that? I think defensively they can, because they've got the athletes on the defensive side of the football. I just don't know with some of the offensive line inconsistencies that they've had. Last year was one of their worst offensive lines that they've had in Alabama history under Saban's time there. Not really knowing who's the next receiver up. I don't know if they can overcome that. But to your point, they're going to win 11 games. But that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter if you win 11 games. You're Alabama. You're supposed to be competing for an SEC championship. You're supposed to be competing for a national championship. And if you're not in the conversation, that is a failure on Alabama's part.
Well, to their credit now, they were in the discussion of should they be in the playoff, remember?
But they shouldn't have been.
They should have been.
They shouldn't have been.
They should have been.
We're not doing this again. They should not have
Yes,
been
we are.
with 2 losses. We're not putting a 2-loss team into the playoff.
Again, okay.
Just because the other teams aren't that good does not mean that we need to move the requirements to put a 2-loss team in. This is why we expanded it. This is why we expanded the playoff.
Say what you just said again and clip it and post it on Twitter and see what's going to happen.
Oh, I'm going to get picked apart, and I've got
because what are we talking about here?
But Blake, here let's shift the focus so we don't go down that rabbit hole.
Okay, because you're about to get ripped alive.
Because we've already yelled at each other about this. We yelled at each other
again. I was about to yell at you again. Can I tell you can I just tell you something really quickly? You remind me of my 3-year-old son, Ben.
Stop.
Like that's how angry you get me sometimes.
Okay. My point is that if Alabama is in the expanded playoff, say they would get the handout, they would get the gimme, they would get placed in the playoff because
kill TCU.
They might have, but they're not going to. Yes, they would have.
Okay, thank you.
If they don't have a good quarterback, they're not advancing past that first game. To have to beat teams like LSU, Georgia, which they would have had to probably face Georgia before the national championship, I don't think that they get the job done. Looking ahead, I'm not talking about last year. I'm saying looking ahead with a bad quarterback situation.
I forget the kid's name. He wore number 14, Lane Kiffin's first year, and they won the national. Jake Coker. Jake Coker was below average.
But who was the offensive coordinator?
Lane Kiffin.
They had a really good offensive coordinator. And
but I'm with you there. But Alabama in the past has had subpar quarterback play and legitimately done some really good things. But let me tell you what Alabama used to be. Georgia.
In what sense?
Every sense. You know, like you come out here and you talk about Stetson Bennett. You know who Stetson Bennett really is? You ready? He's A.J. McCarron, brother. He's A.J. McCarron. That we are seeing this shift. I'm telling you.
But I don't disagree with that. But those teams were successful with lesser talented quarterbacks, but good college quarterbacks because of what was around them. Like, let's look at the receivers. Let's look at the offensive coordinator. Let's look at the running backs, the offensive line.
Name dual receivers in a season. They always used to have one. You ready for them? Mm-hmm. Julio Jones, Amari Cooper, and then it was later in Saban's tenure where they started adding boom, 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 boom.
Yes.
Okay,
but they still had those years, though. They had those guys were first-round picks. Their offensive line,
but only one.
Their offensive line was filled with first-round picks. And then think of the running backs too, man. Trent Richardson, Eddie Lacy. Those guys were fantastic NFL players. Not Trent Richardson.
No, Trent Richardson was a really damn good running back in college. I mean, There was a time. I agree with you. There was a time that their running back room had, if I'm not mistaken, Trent Richardson, Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, and
I don't think there was an overlap with Richardson, but it was Derrick Henry, Kamara, and there was one other guy.
TJ Yeldon.
Was it Yeldon or Josh Jacobs?
I'm pretty sure it's TJ Yeldon.
Okay.
TJ Yeldon and Richardson were like the older guys. Y'all can bean count us on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But my whole point here with
Roger Dugas said it was Eddie Lacy. And
that's
you know, again.
Well, what I was getting at here is that, like, right now, they don't have that. Like, even if they have quarterback problems and the quarterback is subpar, that's my whole point here is that there's no first-round receiver on this roster. I don't even know if I can really pinpoint who the best offensive linemen are on that unit.
It's Proctor.
and he's a incoming freshman.
Yeah, but at the same time now, don't
I know
calm down with that now.
I'm not knocking him and saying that he's not going to be good, but for an incoming freshman to be your best offensive lineman, and you used to previously have 1 to 2 guys in that first round conversation, that's a drop off. And that's not, you can't be successful with subpar quarterback play. They have overcome that because of how good Bryce Young was this past year.
I agree with you on some extent, but I agree that you're saying, I know what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
They could have subpar quarterback play because of the talent around them. I get that.
Yeah.
But they still have had sub quarterback play at times. I mean, AJ McCarron's out there lighting it up, dude. I mean, Greg McElroy.
Yeah.
I mean, Greg McElroy can't hit. I mean, that dude was horrible.
Again, he had a better supporting cast, though.
Well, he had a good he had an elite receiver.
Yeah.
My whole point will continue to be with Alabama is you're going to have at some point you're going to have to show me something, and it's crazy. Like you're going to have to show me something today. But here's the wildest thing. Like when we were getting ready for the show, I was thinking about this last night. Joe, they were the national championship 2 years ago. You know what I mean? Like they were legitimately in a national title 2 years ago. Like some part of me wants to sit back and say, calm down. Okay. But
that roster was so different than the one that we have right now. We had a guy who won the Heisman Trophy. He's going to be the first.
No. Not necessarily. You didn't have a wide receiver that had any returning production outside of John Mechie. Okay. Devonta Smith and those dudes were out. You had a quarterback in Bryce Young that had never ever started a college football game. You had 3 new offensive linemen. You had new defensive pieces. You knew what Will Anderson would be, but then Allen goes down. You had to pull in Dallas Turner as the other pass rusher who was a true freshman. No, they had a lot of questions Bryce Young's first year. Now, the problem with that, though, is, or the situation with that, though, is everybody knew Bryce Young was going to be more talented, or you knew what you were going to get out of Bryce Young more than maybe a Jalen Milroe and a Ty Simpson. My point is they've had questions before and come out and won or played for national titles.
I don't disagree with that, but I would argue that this upcoming season is filled with the most question marks that they've ever had. Maybe except for the beginning.
Yeah, I can't argue that. I cannot argue that point. I think the point that you just made right there, I don't remember a time. Now, I could be wrong. So, Alabama fans, when we clip this and you're in the comments saying, you know, this guy's wearing a purple shirt, he looks like fucking Barney. Oh, sorry, I said that for it. My bad. But, you know, like, it is what it is. Okay? Name a time or season where they've had these many question marks.
I can't think of it. I also can't think of the last time that you said you can't argue with a point that I made. I think I've achieved something today.
I mean, but that
point.
Usually when we agree, it's kind of like the fear of the unknown a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. Like when you get married, or you know, what are you really scared about things? When you get scared, it's the fear of the unknown. See, Ryan says 2008, but Ryan, my question would be in 2008. I mean, wasn't that his first year? I mean, I'm not going to put his first year in there. Take his first year out of that. Let me just end this segment by saying, though.
Yeah.
Let me just end this segment by saying, Joe, they've won 11 games every year.
And they're going to win 11 games this upcoming year.
They're going to win 11 games this year. They're going to have to show me that they can't win. They're going to have to show me with Saban that they can be a 4-loss team. It ain't going to happen, man. It's not going to happen.
Right, but that's where the discussion's different. Like when we talk about a guy like Jimbo, is like, can they have a winning record? We know that they're going to reach that 11-10 win mark. It's going to happen. But the standard that they've set for themselves in college football, it's like if Ohio State or Georgia isn't competing for a national championship, isn't in the playoff discussion, there's concerns.
Well, that I don't want to say that standard was set by Saban because it was set by Bear Bryant, But there was a lot of bad quarterbacks. I mean, a lot of bad coaches before Nick Saban got there. I mean, could you have imagined? You know, Joe, I tell myself this all the time. You know, in an alternate universe, Drew Brees goes to Miami and Nick Saban stays at Miami, and the Dolphins have won multiple Super Bowls, and LSU reigns supreme and would have been the next Bama. Do you know how bad that hurts my heart?
Well, we're in this current reality, and
No,
you're never going to live with that.
Marvel tells me that I can have I can go into the multiverse.
I don't believe
you
that.
watch Marvel, by the way?
I used to. I'm not. I kind of soured on it recently. The old original stuff up until Endgame, I was a big fan of.
Yeah, me too.
The current crap sucks.
Not for kids. You should, dude. Ben is literally in there. That's why my stream. Is my stream going in and out at all?
You haven't. This is the best internet you've ever had.
Okay, great. Well, dude, I could quote any Spider-Man movie that you ever would need to. No Way Home, any of it. Anyway, all right. So, do you want to talk about these big guys getting into the transfer portal? Some big names, or what do you want to go to? Or you want to go to Jimbo?
I just quickly want to talk about Bear Alexander entering the portal and possibly going to USC. And he's the biggest name. If you look at the transfer portal rankings right now on any of these platforms, it shows who's already committed during the winter period. And then it kind of sprinkles in these other guys into the mix. There's not a lot of talent that has entered the portal right now, but Bear Alexander is a significant player. He was a highly recruited kid, a very, very good football player. And him going to USC, man, like, do you think that is significant enough that we should pay any mind to it?
Talking about Bear Alexander leaving Georgia?
Him going to USC is more so because he's projected right now to go to USC.
No, because I've seen SEC defense and offensive line. I've seen SEC defensive linemen leave Bama and Georgia before and go elsewhere and suck.
Right. I think a young player
Bear
like
Alexander, I think is going to be a different situation because he came in that game in the national championship and was killing TCU. I think it's a good sign for Lincoln Riley. This is what we talk. So let me give you my first thought when I saw Bear Alexander taking a visit to USC. He really is. I think Lincoln really is taking a back seat. I think ultimately, this is what I think is going to be in the next couple of years. I think Cliff's going to take over that offense, barring him getting another job somewhere. I think Lincoln has been told by his friends and counterparts, Lincoln, you got to take a step back to win a natty. I really do believe that. If they can constantly pull in dudes like Bear Alexander, I think they're more dangerous. But being dangerous and still having Alex Grinch as your defensive coordinator means nothing to me.
Yeah, and I also think it's a huge pickup if they end up getting him. He's a really talented player, and he's going to eat up all these interior linemen in the Pac-12. But I still don't have any confidence in their secondary, man. Like, their secondary is...
Oh, and nor should you.
It's bad. And as much as you could create pressure and get after the quarterback, you got to cover people. I don't know who's going to step up. And maybe there's some young guys that we don't know about. I really would like to pay attention to what happens early on, how many yards they give up through the air, how many big completions, yards per attempt they end up giving up early on. That, to me, if they struggle with that, they're going to have a long season again. Or not a long season. They're not going to beat the big teams that they need to beat. They're not going to beat Utah the same way that they beat them or they lost to them this past year.
Yeah, I mean, you go in and you look down their recruiting list. I mean, they went and got the Crawford kid, the corner. But outside of that, man, they didn't do a lot of things in changing their secondary. I can go down it. They got wide receiver, quarterback, wide receiver, linebacker, running back, O-lineman, corner that we just talked about in Crawford. They went to the portal. They got edge, tight end, wide receiver, lineman, edge, offensive lineman. And then they go into the portal and they don't do anything. So I don't have any faith in USC. None.
I will concede it is positive I'm not going to sit here and say that it's
No,
nothing.
I think it's positive too. Don't get it twisted. I think Bear Alexander going to USC would be massive for them.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what's even more interesting is your boy Jordan Birch possibly wanting to go back into the portal and leave Oregon.
Really?
It's the rumor. It's the rumor. You know, South Carolina fans are putting out Twitter polls and saying, "Would you take him back?" And that's more interesting to me. You know what? You know where I thought he was going to go, Bear Alexander? I honestly thought he was going to Oregon.
See, that would have made more sense to me because he's going to the guy who.
But he hadn't committed to USC though yet, has he? He just said
he's a projected 100% to Alabama or
who?
to
Did
USC.
Wilfong put it in there
on 3?
By who?
But he's also been projected on all these.
Who put it in there?
I haven't seen.
Look it up because I'll tell you if it's 100% or not. I'll tell you the real percentage.
Let's see if I can pull this up quickly enough.
Because listen, those
he is.
If it's
God, this on 3 site is kind of terrible.
yeah, it's not that good.
It is hard to completely read. It does not say who put that in there.
Of course it doesn't.
On 24/7 Sports, let's see what it says. Not to drag this out.
Yeah, I mean, but if Wilfong says it, then it's, you know.
I'm not seeing anything.
Okay. Well, so like I said, I think it's just a visit. I don't think he's committing. I think he's going to take a trip to Oregon, and then we'll see. If he gets to Oregon, it's over. If he goes to Oregon on a visit, it's over.
It just depends on what he values.
If he goes to Oregon on a visit, it's over. Repeat after me. You ready?
It depends on what he values, because I think the kids that want to be well coached
on a visit, it is over. Repeat after me.
The kids who want to improve their draft stock and be well coached and be on a ferocious defense go to Oregon. The kids who come here and are like, "Wow, I can be a celebrity and be a part of the scene."
That's not Bear Alexander, though.
Okay, I don't
think that kid worries about that, because you can be a star anywhere.
That's true. It's just it's different here. Like, I understand why some guys commit to you. Like, I understand why Caleb Williams.
You mean to tell me that Phil Knight can't call somebody in LA?
In what way?
Get him a deal.
It's not about the money. I'm just saying in terms of like to go wherever you want, to go to clubs, to go to like you're in the woods in Oregon. You're in the woods. At USC, you can go to any bar, have your tab paid for you, and it's sceney. You know, you're around celebrities. Celebrities are coming up to you when you're out at night. Like that's.
Let me ask you this question. Speaking of being out in the woods, were you serious that the best restaurant in South Bend is a Chili's?
I was messing with Ryan because I knew that he was going to get upset. No, there's good restaurants in Indiana. There's certain
Louisiana people. By the way, Joe said that he could handle spice, buddy. Let me just tell you something.
I'm Italian, man. Give me some damn credit.
No, buddy, it's different.
No.
It's different. I'm trying to tell you.
Don't.
You ever been to a crawfish bowl before?
I have not.
Okay. So when you come down here and we boil crawfish and you have them for the first time, don't ask for water.
I won't. Look, I would love to, and we should figure it out during the offseason to come for one of the LSU games. I would love to do that. We should do a show. We'll figure that out. And we're going to test that let's do it on the show to see my spice tolerance. I promise you I could keep up. I eat a lot of spicy food, man. I'm not afraid of it.
Different, Joe. I'm just telling you, it's different.
It might be different, but I can still handle it.
Buddy. Okay. As long as
Speaking of heat, do you want to talk about the Jimbo stuff?
Let's talk about the Jimbo stuff. All right. So let me preface this, because the other night I went off on this guy. Basically, the other day, Jimbo comes out in the press conference, messing around and picking with the media. He didn't say anything bad. He goes, basically what he said, you guys can rip me a lot, but I get on to you. Okay. He said, I don't want a Houston Chronicle question. I want a Texags question, because Texags is more favorable and more maroon and white glasses on. He's joking. he's trying to make light of things. But I've seen this in college football way too much. I literally just covered one in Ed Orgeron. When things are going bad, it doesn't matter. The media is out to get you. Okay? Look, Ed Orgeron's a great human being. Fantastic human being. But they ripped him alive in everything he did and everything he said. And some of those things he was trying to push, and same thing. Jimbo and Ed are in the same situations one year after the other. I was going to come out here and defend Jimbo. Not anymore. I'm not anymore. Well, let me tell you why. Billy Lucci, the CEO, owner, founder of Texags, a couple of days ago came out and started picking on Jaden Daniels. Brian Kelly came out and said he's 210 pounds. He looks good. We'll see him today. Yada, yada, yada. Joe, I just don't understand. Like, I will defend Jimbo from his media core because they're idiots. They don't know what they're talking about. When the last Joe, let's list a couple of things that have happened since Texas A&M has won a national title, and really anything. 1939 was the last time. We fought a world war. We've been to Vietnam. We've invented technology. Smartphones are a thing. You can connect with anyone around the world in a matter of seconds if you want to. That's how big the world has gotten since Texas A&M has won a national title. We've landed on the moon. Joe, we literally sent human beings in a rocket to another planet or moon, and they landed on it successfully. We've had so many things in this world, COVID, natural disasters, so many things have happened. Why are you ripping Jimbo alive? Because you haven't won anything since 1939. Why do you think now that you can come in and win anything when you never really have? I don't get. Their media core doesn't understand who they are, and they never will. They think they should be competing for SC West titles. You can't. You won't. You suck. So you're going after Jimbo. And you know what, Joe? Even from a national media perspective, you know what? I'm going to cut Jimbo a little bit of slack because it's difficult to win there. It's not going to an LSU. It's not going to an Alabama. It's not going to somewhere. Now, can he build it up? Should he build it up? Should he recruit better? Yes. But what's going on in the state of Texas? Okay. What's going on there? I don't get it. So you know what? Screw it.
One thing that I feel is that Texas A&M is constantly trying to work themselves out of is being the little brother in Texas, and
they're below the little brother. They're the step brother.
You bring up a good point that I've been hard on Jimbo. I've been saying that he should be fired. I don't think he's going to be the long-term answer, but you actually bring up a really good point. He is probably going to get you to a more realistic, successful standard for Texas A&M. Which is if you get 10 wins.
Say that again now.
Jimbo is going to get your team to the more realistic standard of success. That is what them winning 10 games and being, was it 2 years ago when they were like kind of on the cusp of making the playoff? Yeah, that's more realistic. That's Texas A&M. Not winning a national championship, not winning the SEC West, not winning the SEC. Getting some good, talented recruits, not keeping most of them, and winning 10 games is the expectation for Texas A&M. Honestly, I'm going to be honest. From what you said, it makes sense to me. Give Jimbo a little bit more of a leash because I think he can get you to 10 wins. Who else is coming in that has any connection or desire to build up Texas A&M to get them over 10 wins? Who? I don't think they ever get to that point.
If they fired Jimbo after this year, who would they go get?
I don't know. It's not an attractive job. And like I compare it to Auburn has always been an attractive job, but as the amount of meddling and the way that the fan base treated Brian Harsin,
somewhat deserved. Some of it was deserved.
Yes, but they almost took themselves out of the conversation, I would argue, for some bigger names.
But you know what they do though, Joe? They go out and they get Hugh Freeze.
But I don't as much as I liked that hire, I don't know if it's a foregone conclusion that he's successful. He's had a rocky road to get back to where he is at Auburn. That's a risky hire. That's not like a guaranteed hire. Lane Kiffin would have been a more optimistic hire.
Did Urban Meyer go?
Well, Urban says he's done with coaching.
Do you believe him? A guy that sticks his thumb in booty holes, you believe that guy?
I believe that he's done.
A guy stuck his
I think
thumb in a booty hole in the middle of a club, and you believe him?
I think he's so burnt from
I agree
everything
with
that's
that.
happened that he did. Because, like, you're talking about Texas A&M for him going to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just throwing out names at this point.
I would argue that he could look at this situation and the way that it has been handled for Jimbo, a guy who won a national championship at Florida State. The way that he's been
Florida
treated,
State
why would he go there?
Better program though, Joe. Look, I mean, they got Mike Norvell of all people building it back.
But that's my point: is that why would he go to something that's a downgrade on the scale of the schools that he has been to, for him to be treated like, a target by the fan base and the media? Why would he show up for that with immense expectations? That Urban's not going to go there. They're going to have to continue to pull from.
Urban gets them to 10 wins quicker than Jimbo ever could.
But just because he gets them there doesn't mean that he's going to deal with the scrutiny that is.
Well, he wouldn't have any scrutiny if he got 10 wins. You know, they thought Jimbo should have been the SEC Coach of the Year during COVID, not Saban.
It's kind of ridiculous.
It's completely ridiculous. Saban's best team ever was in 2020. I mean, he played 10. I mean, hell no, 13 Power 5 games in a row. I mean, it was literally one of the more impressive things you'd ever seen. My whole thing with Texas and Texas A&M and Jimbo, okay, like in any coach in general, okay, this goes for any coach in general. If you can rip them alive, don't get your soft little feelings hurt. That's the problem that I have with the media. It's like what happened this week, okay? Everybody freaking out that their little blue check got taken away. Oh, my blue check got taken away. No, what it showed is you're just as much of a human being as I am, or anybody. Just because I have 20,000 followers on Twitter doesn't mean that I can't conversate with anybody that's in this chat right now. Be a human being. Oh, well, they're a celebrity. No, what is a celebrity? You know, like what really is a celebrity?
Yeah.
Now, there are dudes in this world that when I see, I would freak out to talk to and hang out with and stuff like that. Sure, I'm not saying that I'm above that. Okay, like if Joe Burrow walked in this room right now, we turn off the stream and whatever he wanted to go do, we do. If he wanted me to go push him on a swing somewhere, I would push him until my arms fell off. Okay, there are some people that you can have that with, but the media in college football is some of the worst that you will find. It is atrocious. Like I saw Lucci say that to somebody the other day. Okay, like, well, how many followers do you have? But it doesn't matter.
What does that matter? That's
it doesn't.
horrible.
That does not matter at all. Like,
well, the response to him is, "How many years of college football did you play?" Like, what? Like, why does that? Like,
yeah,
that sucks.
Yeah, he's a blithering idiot. The media, dude. This media in general, dude. People are so soft. People call me soft all the time. I'm the only some gun out here entertaining you. Whether you got 1,000 followers or 2 followers, it doesn't matter.
I mean, honestly, to kind of fourth wall break here, this is why I think shows like this are so much better than listening to reporters. Like I'm,
well, and that is why it has become so successful.
So
it's because people want to. Joe, StreamYard, the thing that we use, okay, gives us the ability for Craig Granger right here. Say, y'all remember when LSU had some conference before we or was in the same conference before we joined the SEC? My point is, I could talk to Craig right here. Like,
yeah,
like
modern technology has allowed for. There's a reason why everyone goes to Pat McAfee now for their content, and people give him information too because he's fun. People want to feel like they're sitting on the couch and not being lectured at and talked down to by media members. To be a media member and to think like that is ridiculous.
What else we got?
I think that was it.
Want to talk about the spring games right quick? Alabama, LSU. I forget who else has some of their spring games.
Colorado, USC.
Colorado, USC. Anything you looking out for? I'm entertained by Colorado. I'm entertained. Now, did you see what happened this past couple weeks? Colorado and Dion been getting ripped alive because they've been posting clips of their team. They look really small.
Well, that was going to happen. He brought a bunch of Jackson State kids to Colorado. They were all undersized. Most of them were undersized.
Yeah, but Joe, they're small. Like they're small. They're small for FCS level.
I really do hope that they can compete as much as people have given them the expectation for.
The only thing that I'm going to say, I think Deion can get any skill position player, running back. I even think he can get a quarterback here and there for them to compete. I think we saw that Deion can bring in pretty damn good coordinators, coaching staff, personnel staff. He can raise money. How can he recruit on both lines of scrimmage? That is going to be the ultimate question for Deion. How do you recruit the big boys? Because it's different. Let me tell you something, Joe. I played offensive line my entire life. You better not go in that room recruiting with gold chains and all this kind of stuff, because it might work for a couple of them, and that's not how O-linemen roll. Tell me how I'm going to get developed. Tell me how much food I'm going to be able to eat. Tell me that a fine honey's going to love my fat ass, and then that's it. That's how you can recruit fat dudes off of telling them that they can marry pretty women. That's how they got me to Southeastern. Look how pretty Megan is. I mean, look at me. I look like a troll. I look like Shrek, and look at her.
Yeah, talk about all the free food. Like, that's usually an easy enticement too. If they have, I don't know who their offensive line coach is. I do agree that's crucial. You got to have good O-line play, and that's what has made teams like Oregon and Utah consistent, and Washington consistent. So they've had those big bodies.
It's true. All right. We'll be doing the post game after the LSU football and baseball games. Intrigued to see USC. I mean, I know what I'm getting with USC. Gonna keep an eye on Alabama. If they
I'm curious to see what the reaction, as much as we overreact about.
Oh, they're going to legit. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. Quote me on this. It doesn't matter what's going to happen. They're going to say the quarterback, there's not a quarterback situation going on in Alabama.
There will be an overreaction. I'm sure there will be.
There's going to be. All right. We will see y'all again on
Monday.
All right. Peace.